Hi everyone, ciao. So today I'm coming to you from Turin, and I wanted to talk to you about how I travel by train in Italy. So as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, there are two main train providers in Italy. So one is Italo, which is a private train provider, and then there's Trenitalia, which is run by the government of Italy. And today I'm going to travel on Trenitalia from Turin, from the Lingotto region of Turin, to Turin's airport. And I've been to Turin quite a few times, and I didn't realize that you could actually take the train to and from the airport. So when I arrived a few days ago, I took the train, and it was maybe 3 or 4 euros, as opposed to paying $40 or $50 or 40 or 50 euros to take a taxi. Taxis are very expensive in Turin, so to the extent that you can take public transportation, so take the metro, take buses, or take the train, it's the way to go. But anyway, so today I'll show you how I use the Trenitalia app. So let's go ahead and get the app loaded. And if you're going to be traveling in Italy, I'd recommend downloading the Trenitalia app, creating an account so you can track all of your tickets. But the first thing I'll show you here is one of the cool features about the Trenitalia app is it'll detect the stations that are close to you. And then you can click on, so for here I'm going to click on next departures from Torino Lingotto, which is the station that's pretty close to me. And then we can see which trains are leaving soon. All right, so we can see right now it's 1:15, so 13:15. So coming up, you can see the trains that have already departed, but there's a train heading to Porto Nuovo and then a few other cities, including down to Alba, to Asti, and a bunch of different places. But how I use this is when I was, or I've used it in the past, is when I was in Florence, and one night I just wanted to go to Pisa. I had a few hours free and just wanted to take a quick trip to Pisa. So I loaded the Trenitalia app. I saw that there was a train leaving for Pisa in like 30 minutes. So I purchased a ticket through the app, and then like an hour later I was in Pisa. And then if you saw my previous video, I was in Foligno, which is a town like in central Italy, and I wanted to go to Perugia one night. So I loaded the Trenitalia app and I found a fare that got me to Perugia in like 40 minutes. But anyways, so this is one of the features I like using is just seeing where the next departures are going. But today I'm actually going to be heading to the airport. So let's do some searches. So I'm going to be going from Torino Lingotto. You can see the recent searches there, but I'll just type it in. So Torino. And then you can see all the different stations available in Torino. But I'm going to go from Torino Lingotto. The main train station in Turin is Torino Porta Nuova. And then Porta Susa actually has quite a few trains too. And the train that I'm going to take from Lingotto actually goes through Porta Susa. So if you're in downtown or the historic center of Turin and you want to take the train to the airport, you'd make your way over to Porta Susa and then take the train from there. Anyway, so we're going to go from Torino Lingotto to Torino Aeroporto di Caselle. And we're going to go today. And just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go at, say, 6 o'clock. Oh, let's do 5:30. All right. Some of the options here you see on this page. So if you're going from some of the big cities, so say you're going Milan down to Rome, or Milan to Florence, Florence to Rome, Rome to Naples, like between the big cities, then you can do a search for a direct train solution. So I would select that there. But I just know, actually I know Torino Lingotto, there's going to be only one train, but I don't need to bother with that. But most times, if you're going from the smaller stations, between smaller stations or smaller cities, you'll have to make connections. And I'll show you that in actually just a second. So let's just go ahead and do this purchase here. So Torino Lingotto to the airport at 5:30 today. I'm going to go ahead and search, and we can see the different options that are available. And there's a train at it says 17:45, so 5:45. That gets me to the airport at 6:26, which is 2 hours before my flight, which is perfectly fine. And it's €3.70. And just like that, I have my ticket. It was pretty easy. And then you can see that there's a message that says that validation is automatic and occurs at the time of the scheduled departure of the train. So this is relatively new. In the past, you had to actually go in and validate, like press a button to validate the ticket when you were on the train. And if you didn't, you could potentially get a fine. But now they've changed it so that you can just have your phone on you and it'll automatically validate. Again, I mentioned this in a previous video. I don't recommend buying paper tickets. I recommend purchasing on your phone and having an account, because that way it's pretty easy to just show the conductor your phone. But also, if you need to make changes, so for most train tickets, assuming they aren't restricted like on changes, you can actually just go into the app. So if you decide you want to leave a bit earlier or a bit later, you can go in and change the ticket. And if there's a difference in fare, you obviously pay the difference in fare. But sometimes, like if I'm coming to Rome and I know I'll be arriving, say, at 9 a.m. and I want to buy a ticket for 11 a.m., then I'll go ahead and buy that ticket. And then when I get to Rome, if I make it through customs and border checks and all that pretty early, I'll just go in and change my ticket. I really actually don't need to buy it ahead of time. Because you're not gonna, those trains really don't sell out. But if you're going, say, from Roma Termini to Florence, and you want to travel in business class, then I would recommend buying that ticket in advance. Maybe not super far in advance if your travel plans are going to change, but I'll at least buy it like when I'm getting on the plane in Chicago heading to Italy, and I know that for some reason I don't have to cancel my trip. But anyways, so this is how you would purchase your ticket. So I purchased my ticket to the Turin airport. And then let's see. So let's say hypothetically that I want to go to Rome from Turin. And I'm going to go from Turin, Porto Nuovo. So remember to use the Italian name. So rather than Turin, I'm going to use Torino. And then let's say I'm going to go to Roma Termini. So a bunch of different stations in Rome. Roma Termini is the main one. Roma Tiburtina is another big station in Rome. But if you're traveling down from Florence to Rome, Tiburtina will be the stop just before you get to Roma Termini. And I was traveling to Rome maybe a couple of years ago, and I saw some tourists. They were Americans, and I saw them getting ready to get off the train at Tiburtina. And I just knew it wasn't where they were expecting to go. They just saw the Roma train stop, and I just asked them, like, hey, are you sure that this is the train station that you want to get off on? And sure enough, they were looking for Roma Termini. Not a big deal. You can very easily get from Tiburtina to Termini. If you get off earlier, you can take a taxi or just get on another train. But just know that Tiburtina and Termini are the two main train stations, and I think there might be one or two other smaller, fairly large train stations in Rome. But anyways, we're going to go to Roma Termini. And let's say we're going to do this on February 25th at noon. And let's see the different options. Okay, so we can scroll through and see the different options here. So we see Frecciarossa on the first one here. So Frecciarossa is the high-speed train that's run by Trenitalia. So it's the high-speed train available through Trenitalia. And then you might also see Frecciargento, which is, so Frecciarossa means red arrow. Frecciargento means silver arrow. And then I think they have one below that, which is still the high-speed train. I generally would select Frecciarossa. You might see some regional trains available too. Let's see if we see any of those. Okay, yep. So you see the Intercity, and then Intercity Notte. Oh, interesting. So Intercity Notte is the overnight train, which could be fun. You can actually get rooms and stay in the rooms and things like that. And then the R is the regional train. But we want to do the Frecciarossa. So here, the first one has one change. And then, if possible, just look for options without any changes. So we could leave at 1300, so 1 o'clock, and arrive at 5:40 with one change. I'm guessing this is probably going to be in Milan. Yep, to Milan Centrale. And again, that's like a 28-minute train. So if you want to just get out and stretch your legs and maybe walk around the area near the Milan train station, that might be a good option. But generally, I would choose the direct train options. That way you can pick your seat if you want to pick your seat and just have a direct journey from your origin through to where you're going. So here, let's just hypothetically choose this direct option here. And you can see picking it last minute or getting a last minute fare can be pretty expensive. So standard is 109 euros, then you're going up to 123 and 141 for business. I typically will take business, the business area, and I try to go to the area Silencio, so the quiet area, which can be hit or miss. Sometimes Italians can be a bit loud, even in the area, silence area. But anyways, let's see. So let's go ahead and select. So I always select my seat, so be sure to check that option there too. All right, so the area of silence is pretty small, so you can see that we don't have a lot of options here. I try to pick a seat by myself, so if I pick 12D here, then I'd be sitting across from someone, which I don't like. So let me go back and I'll do business and just the regular business. And let's see if I can find a standalone seat. And yes, so there's one 18D here. I would select that. If you don't want to do that, if you want to go to standard, take a standard seat or buy a standard seat, then it's saying here for 14 euros more, we can take premium service. So let's go ahead and accept that. Let's see what we get here. So here you're going to be sharing an area with someone or sitting next to someone. Let's go back to standard. Let's see what we get there. So let's see, we would not want to do that. So there are a few options. Most likely you will be sitting next to one or next to someone or sitting across from someone, but that's fine. But yeah, if you want to sit alone, go with a business class seat. The salottino is like a small room area, but as you can see here, you could be sitting with other folks, even though it's like a small little private area. So if you have multiple people traveling together, that might be an option. And then if you want to really go all out, you can choose an executive seat. And this is a very small area at the very front of the train. So you can see that we have some standalone seats here, and then there's a little conference room area with a table and chairs and all that. But 300 euros, not in my budget. But anyways, so you can see the 141 here. If you book this a few days in advance, that price will be much lower, but it'll be higher just because you're going from Turin, which is in the far northwest of the country, down to Rome, which is in the central part of the country. And it's a 4 or 5 hour journey. So anyways, that's how I use the Trenitalia app. Again, if you're going between the major cities, so say Milan and Rome, and actually from Turin to Rome, probably could do it too. I would look at Trenitalia and look at Italo and figure out which one has the lowest fare. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, ciao.